You guys ready to react to John Stossel's climate change video? This one is really good. I got some more good stuff for you later. But this is a woman by the name of Judith Curry, who has said that climate science has been hijacked, by alarmists. Let's listen to what John Stossel has to say. We're going to do a react.
Climate change is a crisis, we're told. And anyone who's skeptical or raises any questions about the alarm is dismissed.
I'm going to bring out 2 people who agree with you, climate skeptic. I'm also going to bring out 96 other scientists.
The smug media mock so-called skeptics.
And what is the overwhelming view of the entire scientific community? Well, okay. Any response to that? Any response? I can't hear you over the weight of scientific evidence.
The consensus is so strong, there shouldn't even be a debate.
You see, and the funny thing is that's how they act. They bully, right? They don't actually provide science. What they do is they provide bullying and mockery of anyone who might disagree with anything that the scientific community, some people in the scientific community might say. But Stossel, in true Chad form, has gone out and grabbed a climate scientist who used to believe all of this, who actually is dissenting from this. And I'm looking forward to sharing the rest of this video with you real quick. I want to try and fix that. There we go. All right. Cool. Let's play.
This whole debate should not have happened. I apologize to everyone at home.
Climate alarmists claim there's an
overwhelming scientific consensus.
but.
It's a manufactured consensus.
Researcher Judith Curry says climate scientists have an incentive to exaggerate risk. Why? What's in it for them?
What do you mean, what's in it for them, John? I love it when John asks questions like these because he knows what's in it for them. But let's have Judith Curry answer that.
Why? What's in it for them?
Fame and fortune.
Fortune and glory, kid. Fortune and glory. All right, first person name what that's from, what movie that's from gets an internet point.
She knows about that because she once spread alarm about climate change. And the media loved her when she published this study saying there was an increase in hurricane intensity.
We found that the percent of Category 4 and 5 hurricanes had doubled.
Really? Doubled?
And so this was picked up by the media. The alarmists said, oh, here's the way to do it.
It being, get the public alarmed.
Climate change is making hurricanes stronger and more destructive.
Tie extreme weather events to global warming.
So this hysteria is your fault.
Well, sort of. Not really.
Well, sort of. Not really. What do you mean not real? Are you sure, Judith? I mean, it's okay to take a little bit of responsibility for being wrong, for the love of God.
Picked up on it anyways.
But Curry's more intense hurricanes gave them fuel.
I was adopted by the environmental advocacy groups and the alarmists, and I was treated like a rock star.
What does that mean, treated like a rock star?
Oh my God, I was flown all over the place to meet with politicians and to give these talks and lots of media attention.
But then some researchers pointed out gaps in her research, years with low levels of hurricanes.
So like a good scientist, I went in and investigated all that stuff.
She realized her critics were right.
Part of it was bad data. Part of it is natural climate variability.
Pause. So part of it is bad data. It's important to understand these points, right? So let's digest these. Bad data, 1. 2, it's
stuff.
She realized her critics were right.
Part of it was bad data.
Yes.
Part of it is natural climate variability.
That's the biggest one right there. Part of it is natural climate viability. How much of it is natural climate viability, though, Judith? How much of that? Because your one bad study is only one bad study in an ocean of bad studies. But bigger than everything is the natural climate viability, meaning when you look back at the entire history of the globe, not just when humanity had begun or when the Industrial Revolution picked up or anything like that, when you look back at the entire the climate of the entire Earth from when we were a molten magma, right? Before we developed an atmosphere even, and you start from there, and then you go from the beginning of the development of an atmosphere on this planet until today. We're talking about billions of years. You will see the variability of the climate swings wildly up and down, wild variations in terms of the temperature here on this planet. And a lot of these variations that would be attributed to climate change today couldn't have been attributed to climate change because humanity didn't exist yet, right? Like, or like there have been entire catastrophic apocalyptic events that have occurred due to climate change that were part of the natural variability of the climate on this planet because of just polar changes, right? I'm pretty sure that at some point we're due for an entire change in the climate of this planet, because don't the north and south poles, doesn't the polarity of those two switch? I mean, we're on a ball of mud that's like, not only is the world spinning, right, spinning on our axis, but it's also wobbling on its axis, right? So the Earth is spinning, it's wobbling on its way around the sun. It's kind of like a marble that got started and spun, and then the gravity of the sun is keeping in its orbit, circling around and around and around, and it's wobbling and it's spinning. And so, of course, there's going to be variability in the climate. But again, what is the point of the climate change rhetoric? The point of it, of course, is to advance their communist leftist agenda.
So you're the unusual researcher who looks at criticism of your paper.
Wow, cinephile. You got the Indiana Jones movie correct. Barney Style says Indiana Jones, but he didn't get the actual title. And I guess cinephile is an apt name for you, my brother. Congratulations. Yes, fortune and glory, kid, to you. Fortune and glory.
And actually concluded they had a point.
They had a point for sure.
Then the ClimateGate scandal taught Curry that many researchers aren't so open-minded. Leaked emails showed university climate scientists conspiring to hide data.
It showed a lot of really ugly things, avoiding Freedom of Information Act requests, trying to get journal editors fired from their job.
One email read, "If you think this Yale professor is in the skeptics camp, get him ousted." See?
Look at that. See, and so remember how John Stewart, but John Oliver painted it earlier, where it's like, there's one guy who disagrees, and there's 95 people who all agree. Do you really think that the majority of people are always right? Isn't that almost always the opposite that is true in reality? That it's almost always that the majority is wrong? And isn't this always one of the best arguments against democracy? But look, this is how they treat climate scientists who disagree.
Journal editors fired from their job.
One email read, "If you think this Yale professor is in the skeptics camp, get him ousted." Seeing emails like that made Curry realize that climate change fanatics had corrupted the science, because there's a climate change industry set up to reward alarmism.
That is correct. It is an industry, right? It's not science. It's an industry. It's kind of like with the big pharma and the manufacturing of the you-know-whats, right? The Fauci ouchies, right? For them, it's an industry. So they have an incentive to lie and to fudge the numbers and the data, not only because they want to make profit, but also because they want to cover their asses when they're wrong.
Origins go back to the 1980s. And the UN Environmental Program.
Some UN officials had a specific agenda.
Anti-capitalism.
God, I hate the UN.
They hated the oil.
Sorry, I shouldn't be talking over this because it's just so good. She's so good. Judith, come on. Tell us the truth, Judith. It says, praise be.
Alarmism.
The origins go back to the 1980s. And the UN Environmental Program.
Some UN officials had a specific agenda.
Anti-capitalism. They hated the oil companies. And they seized on the climate change issue as one to move their policies along.
The UN created...
It is. And people think I'm crazy when I'm like, oh. I told you. I've been telling you, son, since the 1990s. I've been telling you since I got started in politics, when I started my campaign for Ron Paul 2008, RonPaul2008.com, that this whole thing is a manufactured agenda. It is an industry for the sole intent and purpose for them to steal money from people through taxation, because they hate capitalism, because they're communists. And that is what the entire climate agenda is about. It's not about science. I am the science, right? They're liars, they're bullshitters, they're frauds, they're communists, and we should abolish the United Nations entirely.
It's called the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change.
The IPCC wasn't supposed to focus on any benefits of warming. The IPCC's mandate was to look for dangerous human-caused climate change.
No, I want to go back. I want to hear that again because it was just so sweet. It just like, it got me so like, I had to get up and move. Hold on.
And the UN Environmental Program.
Some UN officials had a specific agenda.
Anti-capitalism. They hated the oil companies, and they seized on the climate change issue as one to move their policies along.
The UN created what's called the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change.
The IPCC wasn't supposed to focus on any benefits of warming. The IPCC's mandate was to look for dangerous human-caused climate change.
Obviously, if you're only looking for risk, that's what you'll find.
And then the national funding agencies directed all the funding in the field.
If you say we're all going to die and we got to spend a ton of money on this, you get funding. If you say we don't know, you don't get funding?
No, it's more subtle than that. The announcements of opportunity for funding are really tied to...
I need to get out of the coffee business and into the climate change business, man. Selling these $20 bags of coffee just ain't doing it. I need some climate change in my life.
Assuming.
Taxes is where the real money is. If you really want to make money, you got to get into a business that gets some kind of a tax draw or something like that. I'm never going to get rich selling coffee. I've got to get into climate change or some kind of something that benefits off of taxes, because then it's the guaranteed income and you get the biggest, dumbest assholes who are going to be in favor of it.
That there are dangerous impacts.
So the researchers aren't stupid. They know what they need to...
Luke has got a brilliant comment over on YouTube. He says, there's something I thought of long ago. Why would banks issue massive loans to build hotels, condos, houses right by the beach if ocean levels are going to rise so much in 30 years or so? Great question, Luke. Do we know each other, Luke? Are you the Luke I'm thinking of? I have a good friend named Luke. Sorry, this video has got me jacked up. I think it is part of the coffee. I'm drinking the light roast today, which you would be surprised to learn that the light roasts are actually heavier in caffeine. So Jeffersonian Java this morning is like,
say to get funded.
Exactly.
This is how manufactured consensus happens.
Yes.
And even if a skeptic does get funding, it's harder to publish because journal editors are alarmists.
About 10 years ago, the editor of the journal Science, she wrote this political rant about we need to stop emissions now that was published in Science. So what kind of message does that give? Promote the alarming papers and don't even send the other ones out for review.
Getting published is crucial to researchers because that's how they advance in academia.
If you wanted to advance in your career, like be at a prestigious university, get a big salary, have big laboratory space, get lots of grant funding, be director of an institute. Well, there was clearly one path to go.
So alarmist researchers control the discussion. They publish lots of scary papers, and alarmist media jump on those. Time magazine says, climate is everything. Good Morning America agrees.
Screw Good Morning America. We on the Wake Up America crew, right? Yo! Down with Good Morning America, up with Wake Up America.
Climate change is impacting everything from conception to pregnancy.
God, bullshit. Bullshit. Pucho says, dang AP, how many cups of coffee did you drink? I don't know, but I'm telling you, man, this Jefferson, if you're not drinking AP for Liberty Shop's delicious founding flavors coffee, what are you doing with your life? It's friggin' delicious, and it gives you lots of caffeine.
Congestion, the size of frogs, everything.
The size of frogs. But wait. Did she just say the size of frogs? Hold on.
They publish lots of scary papers, and alarmist media jump on those. Time magazine says, climate is everything. Good Morning America agrees.
Climate change is impacting everything from conception to pregnancy.
Transportation congestion, the size of frogs.
Well, like I'm putting chemicals in the climate change and turning the frickin' frogs big.
Everything.
Airplane turbulence.
Expect turbulence like this to become more frequent due to climate change.
Childhood obesity.
Climate change is making our children more obese.
It's making our children fat. Not the pounds and pounds of burgers that we're shoving down their throats, and the French fries and the milkshakes and the goddamn Nutty Buddies and the delicious Snickers bars. And God, I'm so hungry right now. It's not the food that we're shoving down their throats. It's not the seed oils. Oh my God, the seed oils. It's not any of that crap. It is the climate change. Swear to God.
Experts say that we have until 2030 to avoid catastrophe.
2030, they keep pushing it back. Remember when Greta Thunberg says it was going to be like 2023, we were all going to die, and then she deleted that tweet, and then Facebook and Instagram like pulled down my post and said false information. She didn't say we were all going to die. She said we were all going to die. It's a different inflection, completely different meaning.
Hear the media and freak out.
Children are starving.
The potential extinction of...
Wait a minute, Libby, I stand corrected. She didn't say big frogs. She said she didn't say big or small frogs. Hold on. I stand corrected. The scientific community, I will take my chastisement. Sorry. This coffee is kicking
children more obese.
Experts say that we have until 2030 to avoid catastrophe.
Activists hear the media and freak out.
Children are starving.
The potential extinction of the human race.
Why don't other scientists who recognize the nonsense push back?
If they work at a university, it's going to be very uncomfortable for them.
Universities have become idiots and they punish people who tell the truth?
I mean, I felt the hostility.
Curry was a department chair at Georgia Tech until she concluded that fossil fuels aren't so terrible.
They want fossil fuels to go away.
When they made life uncomfortable for her, she looked for other university jobs, but was told,
nobody will hire you, because if you Google Judith Curry, everything that shows up with Judith Curry denier, Judith Curry serial climate disinformer. At that point, I started making...
It is like a list. It's very Maoist Chinese, right? It's very much centered around struggle sessions, the way that the left operates with climate change, right? It's a religion, right? Think about this. She's a heretic from the religion of climate change. They operate in the same manner as a religion. You're a denier, right? It's the same way as like if you're not religious, right, then and you don't believe in God, you're a denier, right? Which of course assumes that God exists. So if you claim to not believe in God, you're a denier, which again presupposes that it's real. Same with climate change, right? With climate change, climate change is real. Therefore, if you are denying what is quite obviously true, right?
Making my plans to transition 100% to the private sector.
She started
deciding she would transition to the private sector. So she went from the unproductive sector of society to the productive sector of society.